lost your job to some junk.
Well, good morning, folks. We're back. It is the week of Christmas. Headed back to work. I'm in the only car I own with a mount, which means I kept the car for now. My insurance costs are about doubling. 3 cars, and that's not ideal, so I'm thinking that through. But I talked to the agent yesterday, and he said that their algorithm thinks I'm going to drive 20,000 miles just in commuting over the next year. And that was a little sad / disgusting / all the feelings right there. 20,000 miles a year on a car for commuting. That means in 4 years, the newer car I was going to start driving, 4 years of that treatment would have it at 200,000 miles. Then am I right back in the same spot 4 years later? I'm trying to be on a long-term transportation plan here, where we're taken care of for the next 10 years. And it may be that 3 cars are part of that. Then in 10 years, I guess we'll have to get something else, because my daughter will be driving. I should get a good number of years without a car payment, depending on how quickly I get this loan knocked off. And the new one. Just an interesting set of questions. Also an interesting set of weather. We've got snow. We've got snowshoes on. Prepared for disaster. Lots of water and food in the car. Mostly for the work day, but should there be trouble, I'll be set. And I also bought very cheap knockoff battery recharger, but jumper box. Supposedly you connect it right to the terminals. If the light shows that it's good and it's fully charged, then it will start your car for you if it's functioning right. There's a healthy dose of skepticism about those products from people I've talked to, but the reviews seem to think this thing really works. I mean, they were very specific, elaborate stories of people who had this thing sitting in their car for months and then pull it out in emergency, or they have a dead battery and just keep a dying battery and just keep reviving it and get a few more months of life out of it. It's not the way I like to do business typically, but with 3 cars and the strain that we're under, I'd rather not. They told me it needed a new battery in the shop, and we just weren't quite sure we believed it, because I don't know why we didn't believe it, but we just didn't, and the thing is still starting. So why put hundreds of dollars into this car if we're not really sure we believe the diagnoses? Fortunately, I went through my papers and I can't find proof that I bought a battery recently, which is annoying, but I'm pretty sure I did. I remember buying batteries recently from part shops near my house. But I don't have a specific recollection, which is unfortunate. We also know that there are weak connection terminals that probably tested inaccurately. Sometimes the connection comes loose and the car doesn't start. We saw that happen this fall. I had a day where I got in the car, it didn't start. I said, oh gosh, here we go. Took my wife's car to work and I thought it was the end of the world. I called roadside assistance to to tow the car away. And my wife went out and jiggled the cable or whatever the trick was that she knew, because this was her car. And it started right back up again like nothing happened. It just jiggled loose, probably from driving on this particular crummy road. As you can see, the lighting is particularly bad. I don't like to take this road, I don't usually do, but I'd like to save a couple minutes off my commute so I have time to buy more gas this morning. I don't want to be caught in snow with low gas. That's not good practices. You can be stuck idling, you can be stuck in traffic, and running out of gas means you run out of heat. And that's a bad thing. So here we are, driving through the dark woods, 10 to 7 in the morning. What's surprising is you can't see them. There's 3 cars in front of me. Car's just getting warm, got some heat. Even got the seat heater on, which I've probably not used in the 8 years I've driven this thing. But it's kind of nice today. You know why I've never used it? Because I parked in a garage. The garage kept this thing pretty warm. And it's not warm when I wake up anymore. This thing had snow on it. It had, gosh, I can't tell how fast these cars are coming. I probably should have gone, but this is a tough intersection. And that guy's turning. This is just really difficult for me. I see these lights, and I don't know how much time I really have to get out of here. I know that there's been a bad crash here before. Rear defrost. Can't see the button. I think that's a rear defrost. Let's light up. Alright. Dark and cold and I haven't read my trades in about a week now, so I don't have a lot of scuttlebutt to discuss. I know from a headline that somebody got acquired for $1.1 billion. I didn't read the headline to know who it was. It's been a nice restful break. As the best one should be. Trick to driving in cold weather is I used a blow dryer on my hair for about, I don't know, 60 seconds. If you've got wet hair from the shower, you really don't want to go get in a cold car. You're asking for problems, especially if your hair's longer like mine. If it's shorter, it's even easier to dry at 10-20 seconds, but that was just another little trick I used to be protected in the event I am stranded in this weather. You want to have, I've got a whole bag of things here, proper jumper cables in case my battery pack is no good. I've got a canteen of water in addition to my regular bottle. I also use that for, in the event I have a coolant problem in the summer, I can put that canteen of water into the car and maybe get some benefit from that. What else is in here? I used to keep a bottle of whiskey in the car, but I'm not very good at keeping bottles of whiskey around and not drinking them, so I did drink it one day. But I think whiskey is a good thing to keep in the car for warmth, for pain relief if you're in a crash. You can grab that whiskey while you're waiting for an ambulance and have something to maybe ease your mind a bit while you're waiting for emergency help. It's just another little trick that I've thought of and I try to do. I buy the cheapest, grumpiest stuff. It's usually just in a plastic bottle. If it's a good bottle, I'm really gonna want to drink it. But if it's something unremarkable and maybe even just bad, you're not going to be tempted to go and grab it when you've got a party at your house or something, right? And also, you don't want broken glass in the car if there is a jostling. So definitely go with a plastic bottle for that. The other use for a bottle of whiskey in the car is if you do respond to an accident and somebody's hurt, somebody's shook. Let's say you have a passenger, you can offer it to third parties. That includes passengers in your own car too. If you're all shook, you're upset, say, hey, listen, let's calm down. Let's take a nip of this here and calm down. It's not a great idea to get inebriated at an accident site. I don't want to be confused and think that it is, but if you're in a safe location, if you've been taken off by a taxi or something, then maybe that's when you think about it. The other kind of morbid thought I have is when you respond to an accident scene. Oh, crap. My lunch just got crushed, man. Oh, my strap on my briefcase broke. Sent the whole thing into the floor. Oh, so I put my briefcase strap around the seat and to hold the briefcase on, and at this stop, the strap just gave way. I knew that buckle was going bad. I've had to fix it a couple times, but man, that's bad news. Freaking lunch was on the front of the bag. Bag's ripped. Oh, that's a bummer. I'm doing work with my personal auto insurance today. I've got 2 laptops in the bag. I've got an iPad in the bag. There's a lot of stuff in this bag. So anyways, the final thought on the bottle of whiskey in the car is, final thought on the bottle of whiskey in the car is, that was a wise move I made there. Did not have the laneage. Is, let's say you've come across a crash, you're legally obliged to stop, or you've observed a crash, whatever, and there's someone in there who is in the car. Maybe they're taking their final breaths, and you can offer them the whiskey as a sort of a way to ease the pain before they say sayonara. And we're talking a situation where the EMS is not going to get there, and it's going to be a few minutes, and this person maybe doesn't have a few minutes, and you can use this as a pain reliever for somebody. Now, there's reasons people might say, listen, they might need to explain their injuries to a paramedic. They might need to be sound of mind. Furthermore, there are various hormones and endorphins that protect people from agonizing pain at the time of death. That could be true. But it could also be that, it's still a consenting adult, presumably, and if they say yes, let them have it. Let them have it. that's kind of my thought, is there's situations where maybe you're on a rural road, maybe it's just not the right day to need an ambulance, and somebody's going to be stuck there for a few minutes, and maybe a little nip of whiskey will give them the help that they need. Now, as the accident claim person, I'm obviously thinking, oh gosh, you want to be contributing to the blood alcohol content of people involved in accidents. Is that going to alter the analysis for who's at fault and all of this? If they bring in somebody who tests positive for alcohol who was driving a car, that's a problem. It's a problem for you too if you're doing what I suggested with the bottle of whiskey in the car. I kept it in the back of my car, very, very back, in a crate. And technically it's not an open container because it was sealed by the factory. It wasn't like this thing sits open where it can leak and evaporate in the car. If it's open, it needs to get finished off and replaced. You don't want to open it, put the cap back on, and save it for another rainy day. That's probably not best practice, because those bottles, they can leak and they can also leach. Plastic chemicals can leach into the product itself, which is not ideal, but it affects flavoring, it affects chemicals you're consuming from the plastic and things of that sort. I would say try and use or replace the bottle every couple of years, because you don't want a 10-year-old plastic bottle of anything. They're just not made for that. Later, because I got gas. No. It's not going to be any appreciably warmer. Oh boy. Oh, let's just slam on our brakes then. Well, this guy's slowing down without a signal on. This guy's slowing down without a signal on. What is going on with you folks? I mean, he has to slow down because of the guy in front of him. No driver's license plate on this one. No shocker. Although the temporary tag probably doesn't hold up too well in this weather. Could be in the window. Probably isn't having. I'm finding more interest in this culture of people who drive without a license. It's easy to assume that they're migrants, but it's actually often people who've had various criminal or traffic penalties and don't want to pay the penalties or are too impoverished, so they just don't pay them. Their license is gone and they drive without one. I've come across those folks. I find it interesting that they can do it. It's kind of like a Cosmo Kramer type of attitude where you let the tickets pile up and keep it, stay in hiding and never get caught or something. And it doesn't seem to me like the consequences of living that way are all that bad. It seems like the biggest headache you have is getting more tickets, but if you're not going to pay the ticket, why do you care? 2, the issue is not having valid ID to show in situations where you need ID. So if you can have a non-driver's ID card from the state or a passport, something like that, suppose some insurance companies might insure unlicensed drivers. It's still your responsibility to have insurance, but why would you have it if you don't care about the obligation to keep a license? Are you going to care about the obligation to have insurance? What are you insuring against? If you have no assets to the point that you can't pay a few $100s in tickets or whatever, you're not going to care about protecting anything from lawsuit. So why bother? I enjoy learning about these pockets of people in the world because it's a way of living that I can't quite fathom, but I find it interesting. I've been in circles of before people who were struggling. I haven't known anyone who didn't want to have a driver's license or even kept one. It's not where they talk about it, I suppose. Must be quite a level of struggle. Well, this is a lot of congestion today. I don't know why we're so congested. I guess others had Tuesday off as well, and now we're all going back to work. There's no schools. I don't know that schooling affects a lot. I don't know what people do when their kids don't go to school. Well, I know for us, we're sending ours to a camp, so maybe these are kids are going to camps and daycares and things. Well, guys, we are back in it. It says 35 degrees, but I don't know if this is fully rain. It's coming down perhaps as something colder than rain. By the time it hits the car, it's melting. Really is a pretty dark and dreary view on your camera here. Gone this way in a long time. In my emergency kit that I should have put back in was a good pair of work gloves. I remember finding them and saying, what are those doing here? And I put them back in my giant drawer full of gloves. And let me tell you, a drawer with about 15 pair of gloves is not very useful in one spot. Spread those gloves out in different places where you might be, out and about. And now you've got something useful. I need to get those back in the box. It's actually not a box anymore. I thought when I was trading the car in, and I moved it all to a paper sack that I could grab and go. Actually, everything's out of the car right now, except for a new edition, which is well out of the pockets and consoles and things. A lot of it's just rubbish paper, but I thought, I'll go through it later, and now it's all in a nice paper bag. Why would I want to go through it? And out of sight as well in the very back. It's this vehicle here. The person behind me doesn't have their headlights on, just parking lights, running lights. Interesting choice. In the dark. For your rear view, it looks like I don't have my lights on. They are older lights. Brights are good if I turn them on. But this is a pretty well lit highway, in my opinion. I've always liked this car in weather. Pretty much any weather condition it can take on. It did have some issues once on I-35. Once. A lot of snow. I was fishtailing. And even with the four-wheel drive, I needed some weight in the back of the car. Someone at work told me, put some weight on your back axle. And got the third row back there. So a lot of times in the winter, I'd throw the third row back in just as a bit of extra weight. And I don't think I've had any issues since I've done that. You let the car drive as it was designed, and what do you know, it drives, you know. I used to take the third row out to save on fuel economy, to give a flatter cargo space. The third row does not disappear into the cavity like it does in the new ones. When it folds down, it's still half of the seat is protruding into the cargo space. So if you want that to be cleared, it can be like a truck bed with the wheel wells and everything, with like a covered truck bed with a camper shell on top, essentially. A big tall camper shell. If you take the third row out. And there's no barrier between it and the cab, so that's good and bad, but it's mostly good. You can see your load, you're covered, you're climate controlled. I mean, this thing has all the perks of a truck, and all the perks of an SUV. It really is a wonderful vehicle. I wish that I felt better about keeping it. I think I feel good about keeping it. If I'm going to put 20 grand a year, 20,000 miles a year, all right, you freaking moron. You're going to put 20,000 miles a year on a car. You know, why not let it be this one? It's already got 265. Is there a difference between 265 and 285? 285 and 305? Not a ton. The question is, will I get my $750 worth that could have been a trade credit against my new car? I think most likely I will. To do that, this thing will need to run about another 3 months, which puts me into Q2 of next year. And then at that point, I can have it either fixed or junked or drop the insurance at least. And, I don't know, drop the insurance and then get it fixed. I don't know what I'm going to do. The question is, what's wrong with it? What needs fixed? What's a nice to have? What's a need to have? I don't have a lot of straight answers. And I don't understand why, when you have a problem with a car, a mechanic wants to charge you money to look at it. But when you want to go in for an oil change, and they want to look for things to fix, they find all these problems and don't charge you anything for finding them. Isn't that a little interesting? If I have an issue with my heater, I take it to the mechanic, and the mechanic says, well, we need to run a diagnostic to see what the issue is. I go in for an oil change, and they've suddenly diagnosed every problem in the car and haven't charged me anything, but they want to get me on the hook for pricey repairs. I find this to be an interesting question. What's the deal with that? they don't use the diagnosing machines for free, can you trust the eyeballing? I don't know. I could have spent $3,000 and had full peace of mind in the vehicle, and instead I've taken on a sizable obligation for the last few years. I don't know that I've done the wrong thing, but it worked out as it did. Obviously, I can't spend every day. You know, my Facebook feed is full of cars for sale. I don't need this. I don't need to look at cars every day for a year. I don't need to be thinking about it or worried about it. I need to be so committed and overextended into cars that I can't even think about them and that I'm disgusted at the thought. And I'm there, right? I'm not looking at a fun car. I'm not looking for a rat rod. I'm not looking for anything fun. I'm looking to get through the next year. That's probably the best place to be. It's nose to the grindstone, eyes looking ahead. I found that when you've got idle hands or money to play with, troublesome things can happen. Some years ago, I was looking at buying a truck, probably a $3,000 truck. At that time, you could buy fully running vehicle for $3,000 older and going to have issues. But it was just a work truck, a garden truck, you know. Take your dog for a drive, go to the hardware store kind of thing, like I used to have. And I found what I thought was going to be a great little truck. I'm looking at it, and I'm pretty excited. I'm about to take a next move. My wife kicks the door open and says, "I'm pregnant." Walks off. And I said, "Well, there's my $3,000 truck down the hall. I need a $3,000 nursery." So it was. I ended up seeing the person who bought that truck, and it was really not a nice item. Sometimes these old ones, they have nostalgia, they remind you of different days, but the fact is, just because I drove something when I was 16 doesn't mean I know how to work on it, doesn't mean that it was a good thing to drive, or anything I need to be involved with today. I don't need anything before 1990. I don't need anything from before the year 2000, quite honestly. Most of the mechanics won't even work on them, so unless you're a real car nut, you're taking on quite an obligation. Study the Chilton's manual and spend a fortune on tools and hope that the part suppliers that you buy these parts from are good. A lot of times the parts are garbage. Buying, you know, aftermarket knockoff parts, you do all the work to put the parts on and then they go bad anyway a few months later. I don't think it's worth it just to have a plaything. Now I have a plaything that is actually also a daily driver, so if you had to have something, that's not a bad way to do it. I've hauled leaves in this car, brush in this car. You just put a tarp down. It's not a big deal. All my mulch, you know, 20 bags of mulch fit in this thing. Yeah, big bags. Pretty useful. More interesting, I have looked at manual to my new car yesterday, as time permitted. Learned a few facts, not as many as I hoped. You got this 300-page book in the car, right? First thing it says inside, you open it up. It says, "This is not a substitute for the owner's manual. Please see Acura.com for the owner's manual." And I'm saying, what now? This 300-page book that comes with the car is not the owner's manual? What? Yeah, there were 4 booklets. There were 3 smaller booklets that were not productive. And then this one big book you assume is your owner's manual. Well, apparently the full version is online. If I spent money on a brand new car, I think I'd want them to print and bind that daggone owner's manual for me. That's just not very nice. Not a substitute for the owner's manual. What a joke. You can't make that up. Forgot where I was going with that, but read the owner's manual. Oh, yeah. It mentioned, I read all this, the mathematics on pulling a trailer with this car. You got to count the weight of the people, the tongue weight versus the axle weight and all this. And okay. Limitations, I don't think we can haul a golf cart necessarily. Then I go and look at the back bumper. There's no trailering hitch at all. There's no tow package. There's nothing. Now, based on what I read, we were not going to have a meaningful experience pulling a golf cart or something. There wasn't going to be, the diagram showing people pulling a boat, and I'm thinking, what kind of boat is this? There's no way you're going to find a boat that meets these weight requirements unless it's a sunfish sailboat or something. And so anyways, that was all for nothing. I don't have any way to pull a trailer of any type except for the car I'm driving now. So should I need to tow or haul something, this vehicle fills that void as well. Because right now I've just got 2 little yuppie cars that are not going to do the job, much of any job other than all your groceries and a few suitcases here and there. But the seats are leather and the liners are WeatherTech, so it looks tougher than it is, I suppose. The cars are made by Honda, sort of a luxury arm of Honda, which is probably a good thing for longevity. It wouldn't be the end of the world to have my other one at 200,000 miles in 4 years. In 4 years, that car would be, let's do the math, this is an interesting question. Yeah, in 4 years, that car would be 15 years old. Have 200,000 miles at 15 years old, that's not age inappropriate. That's the equivalent of a 2013. I mean, it's a little aggressive, I'm sure. The equivalent of a 2009 vehicle today, 200 I would put on, well, they're saying I would do 20,000 a year, which is the equivalent of doing 60,000 miles in 3 years. That's just wild to me. I know. And you know, I see it. Why do I see it? Because a year ago in January, I hit 250,000 miles on this car. That's almost 1 year ago, about a month from today. So it's been 11 months, and I've driven this thing 14,000 miles in 11 months. Here's the kicker. I was not driving to the office 5 days a week, January through August. I was only driving, I don't know, about 3 days a week on average. Now I'm going 5 days a week on average. It really could be 18 to 20,000 miles per year. It's not fuzzy math. It's a real possibility. Oh, why do we have to slow down like this? People are driving. I'm going to go to the gas station, fill up, try and fix my briefcase. I really need to fix that strap. Hope nothing broke in the process there. Made it. We've got a snow day. Hope everyone has a safe and happy snow day. Commutes where Jim lives another day. So everybody, whether you're wet or dry, low or high, ground or sky, do or die, do enjoy. I'm gonna go get cold.